I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. Today I'm going to be talking about a CBS segment on 60 Minutes about this student who is a terrorist supporter and some crazy stuff that the media is not reporting about him that I just kind of feel is important context, like telling a gun shop owner that he used guns to kill Jews in Palestine. But whatever, he just wants peace. Also, I want to talk about a letter that J.K. Rowling wrote to some of the critics regarding her stance on transgender ideology and her sticking up for women, and people who have spoken out against her, including folks who have worked on her Harry Potter stuff and who are about to work on her Harry Potter stuff, as well as some other things as well. So before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktenews.com, check out different content, the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream from my side, all that good stuff you guys can support. I very much do appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available on the website, like different t-shirts and so on, and you guys can also check out different mugs, and we also have books that are available on the merchandise page. There's a banner that'll take you to my book website where you can see all kinds of cool stuff that I've written. I have fiction and nonfiction books like Slay Your Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear, and of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. So you guys can check that out. I want to remind everyone, there's also a link in the description if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube to some of my book stuff as well. I will be out next week. I will be at Motor City Comic Con. I decided to take the week. It's not all week long. It starts on Friday, and we'll have to set up and stuff Thursday, but I'm just going to take some time and get ready and stuff for it. And I haven't taken some days in a while, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'll be absent next week. I will maybe have some things that are ready to go for you guys to still watch while I'm out. I'll try to have some stuff, but I will not be streaming live. But you'll just have to manage without me for a week live. I do thank you guys for watching live, though, and to those of you who will be in the comments, who are in the comments every day, to those of you who watch back later, I very much do appreciate you guys and all that you do. Even just commenting helps, subscribing, telling other people to watch, all of that really does help. But whatever platform that you watch my content on. So very much thank you for that. Something that is interesting in the book world that's been taken over, at least my TikTok feed. Yesterday, my sister came in my room and she's like, "Did you hear about what happened at A Million Lives Book Festival?" And I was like, "No." And so she started telling me about it. And then after she told me about it, it was in my algorithm, like immediately. And so I got caught up in a web. So I'll try not to talk about this long, but it was just really unbelievable. So there was a book festival in Baltimore, an author event, and they claimed, I guess when they were arranging it, that they're going to sell at least 500 tickets that already been sold, and that's a good amount. And then they also had like 150 authors that were going to go, and that is a lot. And so it's supposed to be this big book signing event, and they're going to have panels and a big ball, like a fantasy ball and stuff. So there's all this confusion and stuff going on. There was rumors that there weren't going to end up being tables and tablecloths, and the organizer had to send out an email saying, "Let's put the rumors to rest. There will be tables and tablecloths." They get there, there's no tablecloths. There are tables, but there aren't tablecloths. Authors, they'll sponsor stuff and they'll send free stuff for swag bags. You go to convention, they give you a bag and has all this stuff in it. they sent stuff for swag bags, but there were no swag bags. So I don't know what happened to all of their swag that they provided. And by the way, there weren't 500 people there. There are more authors there than like people who came to purchase a ticket to go talk to the authors and whatever. So people are like, I don't even know if there are 40 like people there. They didn't even have badges, so people didn't know who's author, who's a a buyer. And a lot of people traveled there and lost money, and it was just one of the craziest things I've seen. And the fantasy ball that they had, it was just like a room with some tables, and it wasn't decorated. They didn't even have a DJ. This one of the security people felt bad for them, so they like brought their own Bluetooth speaker for them to use. Someone who worked for the Hilton. And the people who went there, they dressed up, and there was nothing going on for them. It was a total letdown. But one of the craziest things was when they had panels, they didn't have any tables or chairs or microphones. So everyone was just sitting on the floor. Even the people who were giving the panels were sitting on the floor talking to the crowd of people who came, or the little crowd in the room. So it was bizarre, really bizarre. People were trying to get refunds. The person who organized the event claims that she's going to be issuing refunds, and everyone will get one by, I think, May 31st. I don't see that happening, but I just wonder what they did with all that money. I wonder what they did with the swag bags. People said there were no signs. They didn't advertise it. People said that they didn't see volunteers, hear call for volunteers or anything like that. And if you, my sister asked me, she's like, would you ever does seeing all this make you think that you could do something like that or better than that? I'm like, well, I know I could do something better than that. And I could definitely put on events and stuff, but in that particular market right now, I don't, you like need to have different connections with different people to make something like that successful. And I just don't have those sort of connections to guarantee that I could put on a really good event that would be fair to people I would want to come. You can't just it's so unfair to do that to all those people who put their time and their money and such effort. Like there's one woman, she's pregnant with twins, and she said, I organized so much around this date. And she's like, she had a relative who passed away, and they were like arranging things around that date. And you just think about how awful and terrible it was. I said, I don't think I would have been caught up in something like that, because I really like to, I'm kind of slow about making decisions like that. And I'm like, I really overthink stuff about like, am I going to go? How much is it? And, if I decide, so, and I'm like researching and looking at, well, what did they say about this convention? What did they say about this convention? So I would have been very leery about going to something that was a first time event myself. But at the same time, if it was local and it was like, hey, the ticket's only such and such money for a table, you should be able to make that back, I would have maybe been like, So I don't know. I think it's most likely that I probably wouldn't, because I really do. I'm like, what's the attendance like? But they were lying and saying they had 500 tickets sold. But I don't know. I think by the social, I don't know. They deleted a lot of their social media stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what it looked like before, and I'm a stickler about how things look social media wise, because if you don't know that your stuff looks bad, I question, why didn't you know if your stuff looked bad? Sometimes with different political campaigns, I'm like, why don't you know your sign is trash? Are you crazy? Are you So they say don't judge a book by your cover. That's absolutely not true. People judge books by their covers. They judge it on other things, but that's definitely one thing. And so I would judge an event by, what it's called, what the marketing materials look like, website, all that stuff. That doesn't mean that if it's bad, it's going to be a bad event or whatever. Some people just aren't in the know with that. But I don't think maybe I would have got caught up in that. But there was I've been to quite a few events myself. There are people caught up in it who are like first time authors, who indie authors who, and I'm an indie author too, but who are more newer on the scene, um, who just got taken advantage of. So I just feel really bad for them. Because even if they get a refund, if you traveled, like there are people who got on an airplane and then they ship books to the place and they just certainly didn't sell the books, so now they have to ship them back. So that's just money that people have lost out on, and um it's just really awful. So that's all over my algorithm right now. It's overtaken man versus gorilla. 100 men versus one gorilla, though I am still getting some of those still sinking in my timeline. It's not as uh dominating as it used to be, but yeah, I'm seeing a ton of stuff about that. So there's other conventions that have gone on that have been really bad, like DashCon, and there's some kind of Willy Wonka event in Europe, I think, that was really bad that people are comparing it to. But I just feel awful. I just couldn't do that to people. I've gone um to places where there's one event in Ohio, I think it was. We went to go sing. We were supposed to sing, and the people were supposed to pay us, and they ended up cheating us out of money. And that was something that we spent money and time to go down and travel, and we did our part, what we were supposed to do, and people lied to us. And those kinds of experiences, they suck, and they teach you something about contracts and so on, though people can still try to screw you even with the contract, and then you have to sue, and that takes time and money and stuff. But um yeah, just be careful about dealing with folks. And if you have it in your mind that you're going to make some kind of convention, make some kind of event, those things are not easy to do. Even when I've done a lot of political events and had to participate in stuff like that. When we did our Mackinac conferences, they happen every 2 years. They're really big fundraisers for the Michigan Republican Party. When I came and I we had 2015, we had all these people coming who were running for president. Everybody except like Trump came, and Trump was the one who ended up winning. But that was a big year. But I had to plan, like I did the digital stuff. So I had to do marketing stuff. I had to do the design badges and change out the banners, handle the social media, the headliners and speakers and all that kind of stuff. And the next time around, I was really more involved with like making up the theme, and I had the task of making the program booklet. They're like, yeah, instead of farming that out to somebody, we have Christina, she can do it. She's on staff and she's very talented, and we were working up to the day, like basically, like changing different things, altering different things in the book. So there was so much stuff just to go into that. And we didn't have like a huge team that was putting things together, but we had our communications team and finance team and political team, just everybody on the ground working. It is so hot in my room. I think my sister turned off the air. She must have. I'm melting. If I don't see her in the comments, but man, Katrina, you must have turned off the air. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So please, if you're going to start off with something small, and be considerate to the people who invest in what you're doing, and set them up for success. So someone said music scene had same type of characters. We had a dude put on a show with national acts and made it a pay to play, and just canceled at the last minute. Yeah, that sucks. I wish for here's another thing I don't understand about the book event. When we're talking about the Million Lives book event, why not? If you knew that there weren't 500 people signed up, if you knew you weren't going to have the ball together, if you knew you weren't going to have tables and chairs for the panels and signs and swag and all those things, why not just cancel it, unless you plan to pocket all the money and just cut and run? But they obviously decided not to do that. So why not save yourself the embarrassment? You had to know that it wasn't going to come together, and apparently she didn't have people to really help her to try to have it come together. So way in over her head. I don't know how deliberately malicious and shady she was, the organizer, but my heart goes out to the bookish community, because again, I don't think I probably would have got caught up in that. There's um uh but I've gone to some book festivals and things that didn't pan out for me, so I'm just very sympathetic to the situation, and I just feel awful, and I hope the people who lost money aren't hurting too bad because of it. Anyway, let's get to we told some tea. Let's get to some a bit of news. So you guys have probably heard about um the effort from the Trump administration to get rid of some of these people on different visas at the universities who have been protesting that we don't frankly kind of want in our country, need in our country. There's been some free speech advocates that are like, no, this is wrong, and like Glenn Greenwald and folks like that. But you have to understand that, and what a lot of people understand, I have friends who immigrated into the country, they tell you you got to be on your best behavior. Like, they understood you got to be on your best behavior. You're not supposed to be a drain on the system. And there's other folks coming in who have come in illegally, who are obviously a drain on the system and have done some bad things. But there's people who are just wild and out and are surprised when they are going to have their visas revoked or citizenship revoked or whatnot. Well, not citizen. They didn't qualify for citizenship yet. But anyway, someone said, I want the best and the brightest legal migrants. Yes, that's what we want. That doesn't mean you have to be super rich or super privileged or something, but there's great people who come here who want to take advantage of the opportunity, not take advantage of America, but take advantage of the opportunities. And they work so hard. And they value being Americans. And there's other people who are going to destroy us from within, man. So CBS 60 Minutes did a segment on this man, and New York Times did a profile on him too. And there's something really interesting that isn't being spoken about this man. So let me go ahead and
my freedom signals a light of hope.
Mohsen Mahdawi says he was hopeful but surprised when a federal judge ordered his release last week.
Do you remember what you felt at that moment?
I was reassured in my heart of the belief that justice will prevail and the justice system is functioning.
After 16 days in detention, he walked out of the courthouse and spoke to a group of supporters. He had a message for President Trump.
I am not afraid of you.
Why was it important for you to speak directly to Donald Trump as you were walking out free?
There is this philosophy of intimidation, of punitive justice. So I wanted to share to them that you can do whatever you want. You will not silence me.
We stand tall.
Mahdawi, a Palestinian green card holder, led student protests against the war in Gaza. He was arrested last month while attending his final citizenship test.
Masked agents loaded with guns separated me, isolated me from my lawyer, did not allow for any conversation of like, let me see the order that you have or what's happening. And I said, I am a peaceful man.
We were there as federal agents took him away on orders by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, alleging the Columbia University protests were anti-Semitic.
He accuses you of potentially undermining the peace process underway in the Middle East.
It's laughable. A person who has been vocally advocating for justice and peace is undermining U.S. policy.
Despite his imprisonment, Mahdawi says he will continue to protest.
I wasn't afraid when they detained me. I was not afraid when I get out of detention, and I am not afraid to share my voice.
Okay, so that's a segment they decided to air on. Oh, that was the evening news. I think 60 Minutes posted it though, if I'm not mistaken. But it was CBS. Okay. I've been looking at CBS sideways ever since that debate, by the way. They really showed themselves to be some clowns. Okay, so Mahdawi here. He also had a glowing piece in the New York Times. This is something that's in the New York Post. Freed Columbian University student Mohsen Mahdawi, accused of telling gun shop owner that he used to kill Jews in Palestine. Court documents show. Freed Palestinian Columbian University student Mohsen Mahdawi was once accused of telling a Vermont, he did this in Vermont, gun store owner that he used to kill Jews while he was in Palestine with modified automatic firearms that he built himself, court documents allege. The allegations were laid bare in court papers filed Wednesday as the Trump administration unsuccessfully sought to keep Mahdawi in custody following his arrest for leading anti-Israel protest on the Ivy League campus. In arguing their case, the Trump admin honed in on a visit Mahdawi made to a gun store in the summer of 2015, which resulted in the owner alerting local cops, the filing states. The gun shop owner told Windsor, Vermont police officers that Mr. Mahdawi had visited his store twice, expressing an interest in learning more about firearms and buying a sniper rifle and an automatic weapon that he had considerable firearm experience and used to build modified 9mm submachine guns to kill Jews while he was in Palestine, the papers charge. The owner also gave cops the name of another gun enthusiast who'd allegedly had a similar conversation with Mahdawi at the Firearm Museum where he volunteered. In that exchange, the filing alleges the Columbia student said, "I like to kill Jews." Mahdawi, in his response, noted that he was interviewed by the FBI shortly after, but denied making the remarks, the court paper states. Mahdawi confirmed that he had visited the gun shop and the Precision Museum, but that he had never discussed buying weapons or killing Jews. He added, too, that he'd visited the gun store to ask whether he needed to register a shotgun his then wife had bought him. Mahdawi is said to have told the agent he went to the museum because it was close to his house and he had an interest in machinery. I wonder why. Mr. Mahdawi states that the FBI agent was satisfied with the explanation and closed the investigation. The government also pointed 2019 incident in which Mahdawi was stopped at a U.S. border and found to be carrying drugs, the court filing charges. He was sent to diversion through the state court, and any record of the offense has been expunged, the government stated. Mahdawi, however, denied possessing any illegal drugs in 2019, describing them as prescription medication. Despite the Trump administration arguing that Mahdawi is a national security threat, U.S. District Judge Jeffrey Crawford ordered Wednesday that he be released from custody. Mahdawi, a legal permanent resident for 10 years, was arrested on April 14th during an interview about finalizing his U.S. citizenship. The State Department ultimately accused Mahdawi of engaging in threatening rhetoric and intimidation against Jewish students during Columbia protests. Mahdawi's lawyers argued he was detained in retaliation for his speech advocating for Palestinian human rights. In his release order, the judge said Mahdawi has raised a substantial claim that the government arrested him to stifle speech with which it disagrees. Even if he were a firebrand, his conduct is protected by the First Amendment, the judge wrote, adding that offering political opponents or alarming the State Department doesn't make him dangerous enough to justify detention. Immediately after his release, the defiant protester, who was a co-president of the now suspended Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine, sent a message to Trump and his administration. "I am saying it clear and loud to President Trump and his cabinet. I am not afraid of you," Mahdawi said. outside the Vermont courthouse. Mahdawi is set to appear remotely before an immigration judge in Louisiana on Thursday, his lawyer said. The Post reached out to Mahdawi's attorney but didn't immediately hear back. So, I don't know if they can bust him on something to like arrest him or like keep him in jail or something along those lines, but if they want him out, it's just amazing to me the people that the media keeps uplifting. Like, we've had many conversations about the Maryland man, the wife beater, you know, who was trafficking people and so on. MS-13 gang member, allegedly. And this man who's having these interviews, who's had glowing pieces or whatever in the New York Times. And then there's this incident where he allegedly, you know, made all these claims about killing Jews to two different sources. And just had this very passionate interest in the firearms. So I know it's stop Trump at any cost. Someone said they're so clearly pushing an agenda. Why are they choosing these specific stories? You know, maybe because there aren't better martyrs. Maybe because there's just no better martyrs. For some of these causes they had, like BLM would always pick some, you know, there were some stories where cops did stuff and it's like, okay, that cop needs to go to jail, or oh, that cop did a bad thing, oh, that cop made a stupid mistake, or maybe it was actually a mistake and they weren't going to jail, but man, that was, you know, there was a couple stories. There were some that were like honest, like, gosh, that's tragic, but split decision, you got to make a decision to protect your life or their lives and so on. But there were some people like Jacob Blake, who that was that guy Kamala Harris said she was proud of, and he was in the car and there were kids in the car and he had allegedly just digitally sexually assaulted a girl, and he like got in the car and there's kids in the car and she's on there's kids or whatever, and the cop wanted him to stop and he wouldn't stop, and he like reached down or whatever and he had a knife and the cop shot him, and they're like, oh my gosh, this cop is terrible, and he survived. He was like paralyzed, and Kamala Harris like visited him and said she was proud of him and stuff. I'm like, why are you proud of this guy? And then he clearly like did have a knife and admitted he had a knife, and people wanted to pretend like he didn't have a knife. Now the cop shot him quite a few times. But you know, if someone's coming at you with a knife, you do want them to go down. So, you know, there's some of these they acted like with BLM, the narrative was that cops are just going around hunting Black people and killing them. And if that were true, then where are all the stories of, you know, the Black lawyer guy walking home from the park and who just ended up dead because the cops wanted to kill a Negro that night? You know, like they were usually stories where there's some kind of reasonable explanation to why the cop acted in the way that they did, even if you don't agree with the force that they used. Usually there was some kind of reason, and a lot of times the person who ended up shot and maybe deceased weren't so innocent in the matter. And the reason for that is because they're not just picking on people. There's reasons why they're engaging. And the Trump administration, maybe they're not so crazy. Maybe they're actually engaging with different people, wanting to deport them or arrest them because they're not so great people who have broken our laws. So it's hard to find stories about they weren't doing nothing, they did everything right, they're just, you know, and they just kidnapped them and wanted to send them to El Salvador for funsies. That's not really what's going on. Do they make mistakes sometimes? Everybody does, sure, you know, but I think that maybe they just don't have any choice and they're just grasping at straws here. But if it were me, I don't have to win at any cost. I don't have to win at any cost. I could just choose to not engage. I don't have to just pick a story and be adversarial to you just because I don't like your side. That's not how I operate. That's not how I think. The media, they're very much like that. So anyway, if I decided to pick a martyr and then I started looking up more into Maryland Man or this guy here, and I'm like, oh gosh, this past is very sketchy. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Now the Maryland Man guy, if your concern is actually due process and they send him to where he wasn't supposed to be, and you want to be like, okay, even if this guy is a scumbag, you still have to stand up for due process, then that's the route you can go. But people were trying to, I mean, there's a reason why they keep calling him Maryland Man instead of illegal alien, because they're trying to invoke a certain emotion, like it's just some innocent dad who got swept up by the mean Trump administration. So they are playing games and trying to run cover for whatever, but they could just, I don't know, report the facts, back off, not make it a piece of this iconic piece that's just designed to take down Trump, designed to take down his agenda when it comes to immigration. They don't have to do that. They don't have to, but they want to. So they skew a lot of these stories in the favors of these folks. And there's some people who will never go look up more stories to get the facts. So a lot of irresponsible journalism, I'm sure, going on. Let's move on. I want to talk about J.K. Rowling. I've talked about her quite a bit, but Rowling has been in the news for a long time, I guess, with her when it comes to her stance about transgenderism and women's rights and what women should be, the fact that they should have their own spaces. And she's had some folks who are very unhappy with her, including people who used to work on Harry Potter stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and read some of this article from the Daily Mail, because she did write an open letter after other people wrote an open letter of rebuke. So signatories. Hold on 1 second. J.K. Rowling's post essay about signatories motivated by fear after Harry Potter stars, she created a turn on her by signing pro-trans open letter. J.K. Rowling has posted an essay about signatories motivated by fear after Harry Potter star signed a pro-trans open letter. The author, 59, took to, she's only 59. She's done so much with her career, man. Took to social media, and I think she got started in her 30s. I think Harry Potter was published like in her 30s. The author, 59, took to social media this weekend to state that nobody sane believes or has ever believed that humans can change sex or that binary sex isn't a material fact. It comes just days after Harry Potter star Emma Watson broke her silence amid Rowling's public support of last month's Supreme Court ruling on gender. In a cryptic message on Instagram, the actor posted, "To the person who said they like me best when I am not ranting about politics, I like me best when I am not ignoring fascism." That is so stupid, Emma. That is so stupid. Oh my gosh. Wow. Days prior, Harry Potter star Sean Biggerstaff savaged Rowling on social media, calling her obsessed billionaire and bigoted for her views on trans rights. I have no idea who that is. I know who Emma Watson played Hermione. I'm not sure who this other star is. Sean Biggerstaff. That, yeah, I don't know who that is. Oliver Wood. He played Oliver Wood. No idea which character that is. Okay. No idea. Okay, days prior, Harry Potter star Sean Biggerstaff savage Rowling on social media, calling her an obsessed billionaire and bigoted for her views on trans rights. The comments followed last month's Supreme Court ruling that in the 2010 Equality Act, the definition of the term woman relates only to biological women. Rowling, who has been outspoken on gender issues for years, publicly supported the ruling. In a new essay, Rowling has made cryptic reference to backstabbing colleagues ever ready to report wrongthink, but did not confirm who she was referring to. She added, I wonder if they ever ask themselves how they got here, and I wonder whether any of them will ever feel shame. This week, the star of HBO's Harry Potter reboot turned on Rowling in a letter standing in solidarity with members of the LGBT plus community impacted by the recent Supreme Court gender ruling. And Papa Ascende, that's the black guy who's playing Severus Snape, who should not be playing Severus Snape for obvious reason, who has been cast as Severus Snape in the upcoming series, was one of several signatories of the letter addressed to film and TV industry bodies, encouraging them to support the trans community. Seemingly referencing the open letter this weekend, Rowling wrote in her essay that signatories of these sorts of letters are motivated by fear after 400 industry professionals, including other actors from franchises, also signed. The author added, I often wonder whether the signatories of such letters have to or they do to quiet their consciousness before consciences before publicly boosting a movement intent on removing women's and girls' rights, which bullies gay people who admit openly they don't want opposite sex partners, and campaigns for the continued sterilization of vulnerable and troubled kids. Do they feel any qualms at all while chanting the foundational lie of their religion, trans women are women, trans men are men? Aside is set to star as Hogwarts teacher Snape, who was previously played by late Alan Rickman in the film series and a TV adaptation of Rowling's famous novels, which will be reportedly start filming this summer. The London-born actor's appointment sparked criticism for some fans, while others defended him against what they called a racist backlash. We've talked about them casting a black Snape, and it's going to make things really weird. And I wonder if they're going to have things like James Potter basically hanging him from a tree or twirling him in the air and stuff like that, essentially look like him lynching a black man, and what that will do to the consciousness of people as they see that, and Harry and other people just being suspicious of Snape, saying he looks suspicious and feeling that he's suspicious. It just adds a different element to it, that's not supposed to be there. Elsewhere, critics of the Harry Potter author criticized her role and executive producer on the show because of her views on transgender issues. HBO chiefs later defended her role, saying Rowling had a right to express her personal views. Oscar-winning actor Eddie Redmayne, who led the Fantastic Beasts film, Katie Ling, who played Cho Chang in Harry Potter film series, and ghost actress Charlotte Ritchie, who appeared as a student Harry Potter in the Goblet of Fire, also signed the letter. Another signatory was Bridgerton actress Bessie Carter, the daughter of Dame Imelda Staunton, who played Dolores Umbridge in the popular films, and breeder star Daisy Haggard, who voiced Ministry of Magic Lift in the Harry Potter films. Other signatories of the film and TV letter include the Brutus actor Joe Alwyn, Baby Girl star Harris Dickinson, The Last of Us actor Bella Ramsey, Happy Valley star James Norton, Bridgerton's Nicola Collin, who previously said that she was disgusted by the ruling. It's so crazy. I'm disgusted that women are women and they're saying these men aren't women. It's so crazy. This week, Harry Potter star Watson broke her silence amid the row of Rowling's views on trans politics with a post on Instagram. The British actress 35, who played Hermione Granger in the multi-billion pound movie franchise, has been among those speaking out in the past in opposition to the writer's opinions on gender. While she did not refer to the recent judgment, her post came after more than 400 industry professionals signed the open letter last month. Harry Potter star Biggerstaff. I already said that. Why they got that in the article twice? About the anyway, it's not too long. Let me read it. In light of recent open letters from academia and the arts criticizing the UK Supreme Court ruling on sex-based rights, it's possibly worth remembering that nobody sane believes or has ever believed that humans can change sex or the binary sex isn't a material fact. These letters do nothing but remind us of what we know only too well, that pretending to believe these things has become an elitist badge of virtue. That's true. I often wonder whether the signatories of such letters have quietened their consciences before publicly boosting a movement intent on removing women's and girls' rights, which bullies gay people who admit openly they don't want an opposite sex partners, and campaigns for the continued sterilization of vulnerable and troubled kids. Do they feel any qualms at all while chanting the foundational lie of their religion? Trans women are women, trans men are men. I have no idea. All I know for sure is that it's a complete waste of time telling a gender activist that their favorite slogan is self-contradictory nonsense, because the lie is the whole point. They're not repeating it because it's true. They know full well it's not true, but because they believe they can make it true, sort of, if they force everyone else to agree. The foundational lie functions as both a catechism and crucifix. The set forth of the words, it obviates the tedious necessity of coming up with your own explanation of why you're one of the godly, and an exorcist weapon which will defeat the demonic facts and reason and promote the advance the righteous pseudoscience and sophistry. Some argue the signatories of these sorts of letters are motivated by fear for their careers, of course, but also fear of their co-religionists, who include angry narcissistic men who threaten and sometimes enact violence on non-believers, backstabbing colleagues ever ready to report wrongthink, the online shamers and doxers and rape threateners, and of course the influential zealots in the upper echelons of liberal professors, though we can quibble whether they're actually liberal at all given the draconian authoritarianism that seems to have engulfed so many. Gender ideology could give medieval Catholicism a run for its money when it comes to punishing heretics. So isn't it a common sense to keep your head down and recite your Hail Mulvaney's? That's funny. But before we start feeling too sorry for any cowed and fearful Tawanites, I don't know what that is, TWAWites, who they've turfied on their sly. Let's not forget what high proportion of them have willingly snatched up pitchforks and torches to join the inquisitional purges. Call me lacking in proper womanly sympathy, but I find the harm they've enabled, in some cases directly championed or funded, the hounding and the shaming of the vulnerable women, the forced losses of livelihoods, the unregulated medical experiments on minors, tends to dry up my tears at source. History is littered with the debris of irrational and harmful belief systems that once seemed inassailable. As Orwell Orwell said, some ideas are so stupid that only intellectuals believe them. Gender ideology may have embedded itself deeply into our institutions where it's been imposed top down on the supposedly unenlightened, but is not invulnerable. Court losses are starting to stack up. The condescension, overreach, entitlement, and aggression of gender activists is eroding public support daily. Women are fighting back and winning significant victories. Sporting bodies have miraculously awoken from their slumber and remembered that males tend to be larger, stronger, and faster than females. Parts of the medical establishment are questioning cutting healthy breasts off teenage girls is really the best way to fix their mental health problems. One seemingly harmless little white lie, trans women are women, trans men are men, uttered the most cases without any real thought at all. And few short years later, people who think of themselves as supremely virtuous are typing, yes, rapists pronouns are absolutely the hill I'll die on, rubbing shoulders with those who call for women to be hanged and decapitated for wanting all female rape crisis centers, and furiously denying clear and mounting evidence of the great medical scandal in a century. I wonder if they'll ever ask themselves how they got here, and I wonder whether any of them will ever feel shame. That's a pretty good essay. That's a pretty good essay. So, I say kudos to J.K. Rowling for her standing up, for women. She wanted also to have a center that only catered to women who were victims of abuse. And J.K. Rowling is a woman who was once a victim of abuse. So this is very personal to her. Not just being a woman, but a woman who has gone through horrific things, who sympathizes with other women who want safety and privacy, and we're being denied that for the ego of men who want to believe whatever they want to believe and expect everyone else to go along with it. So Emma Watson and I wouldn't be I'm surprised. I guess Daniel Radcliffe wasn't on there, but Daniel Radcliffe has said stuff in the past before. But all these people speaking out against her, she's clearly in the right in this issue. And as she said, them making these chants again, trans women are women, it's not because it's true, it's because it's a lie. It's because it's a lie that they have to affirm it over and over and over and over again. So I appreciate her taking the time to do that and writing that and sticking to her guns and funding this effort that got to the court. And I'm glad that they are doing a U-turn, and with Europe making a U-turn, I think the US will continue following on that issue. They were further along with it. So they've gone, up the hill and they're going back down the hill. So hopefully we'll finish our journey and get back to common sense and reasoning as well. Well, that is all I have for you guys here on today. Hope you guys enjoy. Please go blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream. Run the site, all that good stuff. You guys can support. I very much appreciate you guys. I encourage you guys to check out, the merch and so on. You guys can check out some of my books that are available. Again, I will be at Motor City Comic Con next week, and I'll be in Artist Alley and I3. I think that's where I3 and my sister's I4 and we'll be next to each other. And I look forward, and I hope I can tell you guys it was a really great weekend. I'm sure it'll be better than that story I told you guys at the beginning about the Million Lives Books Festival. I floored, and I feel so bad that happened to so many people, but be careful out there because there's a lot of people who want to take advantage of you. I mean, there's people who even when you're starting to make a book, there's these companies will find you and be like, hey, if you want to pay all this money up front and then we'll publish your book. It's like, that's not supposed to work like that. It's not supposed to work like that at all. Anyway, God bless you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.